This newscast is brought to you by Qberg, Pittsburgh's source for LGBTQ news and community information. To learn more about Qberg, check out their website at qberg.com. That's QBURGH.com. From the PEP Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. The prominent LGBTQ rights organization, Egale Canada, will boycott events in the United States in protest of the Trump administration's continued assault on the transgender community. After deep consideration, we have decided not to engage in-person in this year's Commission on the Status of Women or any other UN OAS, that's the Organization of American States, or global convergings, including World Pride, taking place in the United States in the foreseeable future, a statement from the group reads. World Pride, which drew 5 million attendees to its biannual gathering in New York in 2023, is slated to take place in Washington, D.C. at the end of May. Egale Canada also withdrew from in-person participation at a meeting of the Commission on the Status of Women at United Nations headquarters in New York in March, where it planned to discuss LGBTQ related issues. The group pointed to threats at the border as the primary reason for their action. This decision is foremost based on the need to safeguard our trans and non-binary staff who would face questionable treatment at land and aviation borders to attend such convenings and to stand in solidarity with global colleagues who are experiencing similar fear around entry to the United States, the statement continues. The U.S. State Department will no longer allow gender marker changes on U.S. passports and has halted issuing travel documents with the X gender marker preferred by many non-binary people. On the department's website, references to transgender people have been scrubbed, with information for LGBTQI travelers replaced with the acronym LGB, cleaving transgender and intersex people from the larger queer community. The erasure follows Trump's gender ideology executive order, which directed the Departments of State and Homeland Security to require that government-issued identification documents, including passports, visas, and global entry cards, reflect people's sex at conception. Last Friday, the ACLU filed a lawsuit on behalf of 7 people unable to obtain passports that match their gender identity following Trump's directive. How that directive and Trump's gender ideology order will affect trans and non-binary people seeking entry to the United States remains so far unclear. If a traveler's federally issued identity documents do not match their state-issued documents, such as a driver's license, the mismatch could result in harassment or discrimination by travel security agents or airline workers, the LGBTQ advocacy organization Immigration Equality has said. In other news involving international travel, the American Civil Liberties Union has filed a lawsuit on behalf of 7 plaintiffs against the State Department for barring them from receiving passports that accurately reflect their gender identity. The State Department stopped issuing accurate passports after President Donald Trump signed an executive order declaring that the federal government will only recognize 2 genders and that government-issued IDs should reflect a person's sex at conception. Trump's order contradicts the 2020 Supreme Court decision in Bostock v. Clayton County, which declared anti-trans discrimination as a form of sex-based discrimination forbidden by federal law. The Trump administration has argued that this ruling only applies to Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which only covers workplace discrimination. Following Trump's directive, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has ordered that all passport applications requesting an X gender marker be suspended, as well as any applications listing a person's gender identity rather than the sex they were assigned, the ACLU's lawsuit states. Previously, non-binary applicants were able to self-select an X gender marker, as were individuals who had not had their birth certificate reissued to show their correct gender after the previous administration of President Joe Biden began allowing it in April 2022. One of the 7 plaintiffs, Zayat Perzian, a 22-year-old transgender woman from California, said she rushed to apply for a new passport last month, hoping she would receive one that included an F gender marker before the State Department rescinded its policies. She left disappointed when she received her passport via mail, identifying her as a male. We didn't expect the federal government to turn out on us so quickly and render us void, basically, said Parisian. I am not a man and I will not accept being seen as a man while traveling, she added. She and 6 others presented their stories to the ACLU. The organization agreed to accept their case and filed the federal lawsuit on February 7th in the District Court of Massachusetts. The ACLU argues that Trump's policy violates the First Amendment's protection by imposing the president's ideological beliefs onto citizens, the Equal Protection Clause by discriminating against the plaintiffs on the basis of sex, the Due Process Clause by unlawfully restricting their freedom of movement, and the Administrative Procedures Act for failing to provide advance notice about important changes to government forms. The ACLU was contacted by 1,500 other transgender individuals, including family members of trans people who had similar claims and concerns of gender discrimination and passports not reflecting their identity. ACLU Director Jesse Rossman said this is yet another example of the Trump administration attempting to deny the dignity of transgender people and trying to push them out of public life. These efforts are cruel, unfair, and unlawful. We are challenging the unconstitutional passport policy because all people deserve the freedom to live their lives safely and with dignity, she added. Additionally, the ACLU, along with Lambda Legal and the law firms of Hogan Lovells and Jenner and Block, filed a lawsuit on behalf of a group of trans youth and their families against the Trump administration on February 4th, challenging Trump's executive order banning people under the age of 19 from receiving gender-affirming care. As the Pumpkin Furor continues to flout the law and the LGBTQ plus community suffers, we will continue to share the news important to our community. You can keep up with all of it by watching the video version on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to download the Live 365 app to take PEP Radio with you wherever you go. That's the news at this hour. Now back to more music on PEP Radio.